Joining us right now, one of the best at what he does, at working for SNY, covering the NFL, Conor Hughes. Conor, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Take us into the room. When Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji were meeting with Aaron Rodgers, were they open-minded to his return, or did they already know we've made our decision?
No. So, the one thing I want to make clear is that this wasn't a one singular meeting that week before the Super Bowl, and they came in and then they talked, when Aaron Rodgers flew his plane in, and we're like, boom, okay, that's it. I mean, there had been multiple phone calls. There had been a ton of text messages exchanged. I mean, these guys had been going back and forth for a while. That was just the first in-person communication between the two of the guys, or the three of the guys, I should say. But no, the Jets were absolutely open to the possibility of Rodgers coming back as this team's quarterback next year. I think it was just, there was an understanding and a knowledge that if that were to happen, though, it was going to be different this time around. I mean, this regime is not the last regime. It's very similar to when you have a new regime come in when they didn't draft a former quarterback. You know what I mean? So I don't think that Muji and Glenn were going to be willing to cater and bend to everything that Aaron Rodgers wanted and then everything that Aaron Rodgers needed. Some of the things that I think Rodgers got away with were not going to fly this time around with these guys. And this was going to be a situation where ultimately Glenn wanted a quarterback that is one of 53, not the quarterback and the other 52 guys. Right. And it never reached an ultimatum point. Like, it wasn't like the Jets, they sat down across from each other and said, here's the 5 things we need, and if you agree to these 5 things, you can be our quarterback. It never got to that point, but I think they just eventually reached an understanding here where they're better apart than together.
What does this do financially for the Jets? Are they taking the lump right away, or are they going to spread it out over a couple of years? There's obviously a bonus that's, I know, due sometime soon, so it's going to happen before then. But
yeah, they'll get out of that.
What do we think is happening, Conor, like in the short term?
Yeah, so that's what they now need to figure out. I think in a perfect world they trade Rodgers, because then they can get out of a lot more, but it's highly unlikely. I think just, this isn't from talking to anybody, just math, really just looking at the math of it. Like, it's very unlikely that a quarterback, 41, coming off back-to-back seasons where he dealt with injuries, I don't think anyone's going to trade to take on that contract. And then also I believe they inherit that bonus as well. So that's not something, but they need to decide. Do they want to just cut him outright and take the lump of that sum and take the heavy brunt of that cap penalty right away? Or do they want to space it out over the next 2 years? I mean, either way, it's going to be kind of crappy for them. And they're still going to have to, they're going to owe the guy. I mean, it's going to be a significant dead charge. I think for where they are as a team right now going into this season, it makes more sense, and this is just my personal opinion, it makes more sense to just take the brunt of the pain right now.
Agreed.
I mean, the Jets are not competing for a Super Bowl next year. Unless they're going to go out there and get Matt Stafford. I mean, there's not a quarterback they're going to add that's going to make them a Super Bowl contender. So just deal with it on the chin this time and really just start fresh and have all that money available to you in 2020.
I completely agree. Now, you mentioned things were going to have to be different. What did they kind of figure out in the conversation that led them to believe it wasn't going to be different?
Well, I don't think it was. I don't think there was anything like that, Evan. I don't believe it was one of those things where they were like, "Oh my God, he's not going to agree to this." You know, it was just if Aaron Rodgers was just Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, I think that Aaron Rodgers is this team's quarterback next year. If we're just talking about a guy who's had a couple seasons where he wasn't his typical MVP caliber player, dealt with some injuries, but he can still play. Even on his worst days, he can go out there and throw for 38 to 4,000 yards and 25 to 30 touchdowns. I mean, and realizing he is their best option this year. Right. Next year he's the best option, but you don't get all that with Aaron. Like that's just, it's not what you get. Like, you get so much more with it. And I don't think that his propensity to make his opinion known and voice his opinion, I don't know if that would have flown too well with these guys. I think in Green Bay, when he was skipping OTAs and would just show up for the mandatory stuff, or with the Jets where he skipped minicamp because he had a trip to Egypt, I don't think that's going to fly too well with this new regime. And then the Pat McAfee interviews, where you never totally know, one, what Aaron's going to say on there, right, and then two, what topics they're going to discuss. But then the topics that are discussed and what Aaron says has blowback on the organization. And when he's criticizing teammates or criticizing the players, all of us then go into the locker room and we're shoving recorders in coaches and players' faces saying, "Hey, Aaron said this, what do you think?" And it creates a distraction that's unnecessary and unneeded. And I never got the sense that this regime was going to be okay with that.
Right.
And
and the irony was that he himself, Aaron, railed against that stuff which he was actually creating. So what are they going to do, Connor, quarterback wise? We know Jordan Travis and Tyrod Taylor are on the roster right now, but is this a draft thing or is this free agency more likely?
Well, Tyrod can play. I mean, Tiki, you probably know quite a bit. I mean, he looked pretty good with the Giants. I mean, he still has some talent there, and he can throw the ball, and he's beloved within every single building that he goes into. In fact, he had some captaincy votes from the Jets last year as their backup quarterback. Like some guys put him down on their captain ballot. So, I mean, he is somebody that players really, really respect, players really, really love, and he can play. Like he's not just some like a Case Keenum or like a guy where you're like, yeah, he's a backup because he's been around forever. No, he can play a little bit. His issue is he just holds the ball forever, which leads to hits, and then he gets sacked. And I remember actually talking to Aaron, I think midway through training camp or after training camp, and he was saying that he actually thought Tyrod playing behind him and seeing maybe the ways that Aaron avoided hits, the way he processed, could actually help him, even though he was 35 years old and had done so much, that he could maybe learn a little bit better about how to avoid some of those hits, and that would certainly help. But I think Tyrod is probably your most likely option as the starting quarterback next year. Jordan Travis is a good developmental project, but you can't count on him for anything after.
Do you not see them, cap purposes? Obviously, they're going to probably take a big hit on Aaron Rodgers. They'll save some money on Devontae Adams. Do you think that they aren't going to spend anything on a quarterback because Tyrod's already here? Maybe they draft someone. Maybe Jordan Travis is here. So do you think that even conversing about free agent quarterbacks for us is a waste of time because that's not where they're going to go to find one?
No, I think they could. I mean, look, if Kirk Cousins is cut by the Falcons, he's a guy that's kind of like this year's Russell Wilson, where the team that adds him is basically going to give him a veteran minimum deal because the Falcons are going to be covering the other 99% of the money that he's going to be getting paid. So that's an option. Justin Fields isn't going to command a crazy, insane contract. Russell Wilson, I probably would have a little bit of if you have Tyrod Taylor, you don't need someone like Russell Wilson. Like you just don't need, I wouldn't go that route. But no, I absolutely think they could go there. I just don't see them being one of those teams like, say, Matt Stafford, for whatever reason, shakes free. I don't see them dabbling in that market like that, where they're going to have to pay another quarterback like $30 million or something like that.
Right. So, let's move over to the Giants because the Giants have a similar quarterback situation. I mean, in fact, Tommy's an exclusive rights free agent, so they have to still tender him an offer for him to even be on the roster. What's the most likely path for the Giants?
They're a very, very fascinating one because all signs point to that team going with two, and it's going to be a draft and then it's going to be a veteran, and it's who are those two guys going to be. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is the route they're going to go. I could see them re-exploring Russell Wilson. I mean, they had him in for a visit and liked him last year. Russell just wanted an opportunity to go somewhere where he had a better chance to start. And at that point, the Giants were fully committed to Daniel Jones. And it was one of those things where, yeah, you can start while he's not healthy, but once he's healthy, he's our starting quarterback. And that wasn't really what Russell wanted. But Ciara and Wilson, I mean, the rumors of them wanting to go to the Giants have been around since he was in Seattle. Like play in New York, not just the Giants, but play in New York. Right. So I could see them going that route. The Matt Stafford stuff is certainly out there and spreading, but I think that's more fan fiction at the moment than it is a realistic possibility. I don't know why that would happen, but we'll see. But no, I think the Giants are absolutely going to add a veteran, and then they'll try to pair him with a rookie so they don't have to basically do what the Jets did with Zach Wilson and force the rookie in there early if he's not ready. They'll have the veteran there as a placeholder.
So we're talking to Conor Hughes. I'll tell you something crazy, but it really makes a lot of sense, even though on the surface it's like, shut up, you're crazy. Veteran and a young quarterback. A veteran and a young quarterback. Why don't the Giants just add Aaron Rodgers? He doesn't have to move. He's a veteran.
Hey, he just did all that work to his house, right? Yeah. He told us that. He said he did all that work. He why would he? That's a gorgeous place too. I mean, like it's. I don't know why he'd want to leave there. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that's again. Like I think with Aaron, he's at the point where I don't know if the Giants are the team he would want to go to for the simple fact of you can put Matt Stafford on the Giants, you can put Aaron Rodgers on the Giants. They're still not a Super Bowl contender, and at 41 years old, I don't know if he wants to go and just get beat up and then that kind of thing. I think he'd probably want to play for her.
I totally get that, but on the surface, is Rodgers going to have a robust market? Like, do you think he's going to have a choice?
I think he'll have a choice. I don't think it's going to be robust. I mean, the Steelers are one I could see. The Raiders are one I could see. The Rams are one if they let go of Matt Stafford, which still just seems so wild to me on why they would move on from him. But, I mean, the Rams, if Stafford's gone, he's one. Or he could also wait, Evan. Like, I don't know if it's something he would totally want to do, but wait, see if a quarterback goes down and then step into a contender that's like, oh, no, what do we do? Aaron's okay, let's go get Aaron. So I think he'll have options. I don't think it's going to be, 20 teams kicking down the door to try to sign him.
That's just a weird end to his career to be a an injury replacement at some point in the training camp or first or second or third weeks of the NFL season. What are the chances of retirement for Aaron, Conor?
So that's the thing, is he's a very, very proud individual. I don't know if we'll ever find out that teams really weren't interested in signing him. I think it'll come out that Aaron just decided he didn't want to play. He did some kind of retreat or whatever, and he decided he no longer wants to go out there. He has so many contacts around the NFL, though. He knows very well where he's going to end up next,
right?
Whether he's saying it or not, so he'll know. But I think if there are no real good chances for him to go out there and play, then I think he'll step back and he'll retire, and he'll walk into the Hall of Fame in 5 or 6 years.
One thing we've learned about Aaron Rodgers is he'll tell you when he's pissed. Like we certainly learned that at the end of Green Bay. Is it your understanding that he's pissed at the Jets, or is he at peace with what's happened?
He's not happy. He's not happy with the way that this year went, and how I think there was some people that turned on him, whether it was towards the top or even within the locker room. And I think that it got to one of those things where 2 years ago it was 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. Holy crap, he chose the Jets. He wants to play for the Jets. And that first year, that's how they treated him, like royalty. Like, oh my God, you didn't have to pick us.
Right.
You picked us. Thank you. And then this past year, that changed. Like, where you had the meeting that the Athletic profiled, where it was suggested benching Aaron Rodgers, and then that gets back to him. There's the he didn't want Robert Saleh fired, and they fire Robert Saleh anyway, and then the demoting. I mean, there's just things that happened this year that I think ticked him off. The next time he speaks, whether it's Pat McAfee or something like that, I'm very curious if he goes and takes the high road and just says, like, I enjoyed my time in New York. It didn't work out. I'm looking forward to the next opportunity. Or if he goes into this one guns a-blazing and is, hey, here's what went wrong. Here's why it went wrong. Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. So we'll certainly find that out. With him, you never know.
Right.
He's honest. He's going to say exactly how he feels and what he wants. But he's also one of those guys that has treated people with respect, that have treated him with respect. And it's just a matter of how he truly feels. Because the last time we talked to him was, the end of the season, and we haven't seen him since.
Right. The good thing is, if he does go that latter route, Conor, it's a new regime, so it doesn't matter.
Correct. Yeah,
and now
it's just if he went ownership, like if he was critical of ownership. But yeah, you're right. It's a brand new regime.
Right. So I'm under the assumption, because kind of alluded to, that this was all Aaron Glenn's decision. How much input did Woody have?
Woody did step back on this one. I've talked about this before. Him and Aaron don't have this like tremendous great relationship. I mean, they're not best friends. Aaron and Christopher, his brother, are super close. Like they're very, very close. He's not, and he had a great relationship with Jeff Ulbrich and Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. Woody and him just never really connected on that level. They didn't. Like they're not guys that are going to go have a bourbon together or a glass of wine and hang out. Like that's just not what they're going to do. So I don't get the sense that Woody like stepped in though and was like, look, I just hired you to be my head coach. By the way, you're getting this guy the hell out of here. It was very much like, what you guys want to do, you have my support. Like you have my support to do what you want to do.
I like that. That's exactly what we want to hear as Jet fans. It was the decision of the deciders and not the owner.
And again, guys, the other thing too is all the people that interviewed for this job, very few of them were like, yeah, I support keeping Aaron. Like most of them were like, we should probably start anew here. Like, let's just turn the page, put the last couple years as far behind us as we can, and truly start anew.
Interesting. Should Jet fans be concerned that, you get a prominent player like Quinnen Williams, who already let us know how he felt via social media?
Yeah.
Thumbs down. He's, I'm going through another rebuild. Do you think this is going to be a challenge for Aaron Glenn, that I'm sure there are others in the locker room that are going to feel that exact same way with the decision on the quarterback?
The guys who have been here for a while and have just gotten their teeth kicked in and had emotions high and just get wrecked and feel like this is the year, and then it's very much not the year. Yeah, those are the guys I would keep an eye on. The Breece Halls, the Garrett Wilsons, the Quinnen Williams, guys who are not in this for the money. And Garrett's the one I always talk about with this. Like, you can get mad because he's sometimes emotional and things like that, but that's what you want. Like, he's not out there. He's not a Terrell Owens. He's also just not chasing a paycheck. Like, this is a guy who wants nothing more in life than to win football games. And he's getting to the...
And be great.
Correct. Yeah. And he knows what he can do on the field. So when it's like, oh my God, here we go again, we're going to have another stopgap quarterback before the rookie. Is the rookie good? How many years am I going to waste now in my career waiting to see if the rookie's good? What if the rookie's not good? Like, I could absolutely see him going in and saying, look, I appreciate my time here. It's been great. Send me to Houston and let me play with CJ, where I know there's an established quarterback. Like, I could see that, but the Jets have all the team control. So whether or not the Jets do that, I think that's highly unlikely. But I could see guys like Quinnen who are like, you know what, man, I've been doing this for 5-6 years. Or guys like Garrett's who's in 3 years, Brees who's in 3 years. Those guys who are like, man, how I'm ready to win, and they're losing faith in it happening here or not seeing it happen here within the next 12 months. Yeah, I could see those guys kind of wanting out. But at the end of the day, the Jets control, and the Jets need good players. And the guys we're talking about right now are really, really good football players, and it'd be hard to see them let go.
Right.
If you had to guess right now, and you're good at this because we recorded it back in November when you were on, and we said, who's the coach and GM? And I'll play that in a little bit. You kind of nailed the head coach in November.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
I don't think I got GM, though.
I didn't even know who Darren Moogie was.
Yeah, the GM one was like...
Yeah, you me both.
Yeah, that one doesn't count.
I was like, oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. If you had to guess right now on the Giants' Week 1 starting quarterback and the route the Jets go to add another body, because I think clearly Tyrod Taylor's going to be here, and if they draft someone, he's probably the starter. Give me your best prediction as we sit here in early February on the Giants' Week 1 starter and the young or veteran quarterback that the Jets decide to add this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, I think Jets are going to take someone in the second round and then pair him with Tyrod. Just so I can't see them mortgaging picks to go up and get someone 1 or 2. And there's really no quarterback worthy of 7. So I could see him going with someone like Dart in the second round and having him sit behind Tyrod for a year, develop, and then see what you can't do with him. And then, again, if you draft a second-round quarterback and it's pretty clear he's not it, there's nothing to stop you from drafting someone in the first round next year. So Dart is someone I could see him taking a flyer on, pairing him with Tyrod Taylor and seeing what you can't do there. And for the Giants, gun to my head right now, I think you're going to have Shedeur Sanders and Russell Wilson. Something like that. And it'll be... Whether or not Russ is a starter week 1, I don't know. It's really going to depend. When the rookie's ready, I think the Giants will hand it over to the rookie.
I don't hate that, Connor. I really don't. Yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, and again, Russ is dying to call. I know he's been trying to come to New York. So if he shakes free from Pittsburgh, I could see that happening. And then again, you get your rookie and you get your veteran, your insurance if the rookie isn't ready.
That's very interesting. Connor, always a pleasure. We appreciate it, man.
You're the best, Connor.
No problem, guys. Thank you for having me on.
There he is, Conor Hughes of SNY, the latest on the Jets and the Giants. Now, his prediction for the Jets, draft someone in the second round. Tyrod Taylor's the starter.
But you're not bad with Tyrod Taylor.
No, my concern with Tyrod is health.
It's health.
That's
because of what Connor alluded to.
Yeah, holds the ball too long.
He holds the ball, and he's trying to make the perfect play, every play, and he gets hit. And he's not a big quarterback. He's not 6'3" and 240 pounds and strapping physicality.
Yep.
He's a smaller quarterback, even though very respected in the game. You got to be available in order to be a viable option.
Availability, and it's what's my future with him? He's 36. 37.
Well, I think your future is exactly what Connor said.
Right, he's bridging to somebody else.
He's your bridge if you have to, long-term backup.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be here until, hey, you want to coach?
Right.
Right? You want to transition right into player coach?
And there's nothing wrong with that, but what I laid out at the beginning of the show is the idea of drafting someone and also having that young guy who needs another opportunity like a Daniel Jones or a Justin Fields who could put it together.
That's not always the best situation because that backup, and think of the Carson Wentz, think how many places Carson Wentz has been, who was drafted high, had immediate success, got hurt, didn't win the Super Bowl, but has constantly been trying to find himself.
Yeah.
And you end up kind of compromising the process because you're so desperate to be that guy again.
Right.
And it's not always ideal.
The Giant plan has got to get you all warm and fuzzy. You get Russell Wilson to help you win now, your guy.
Because he's going to win.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's going to annoy you sometimes.
He'll annoy you.
But he's going to win games.
He's going to mostly annoy you when he talks into a microphone, and you're like, you were so fake.
Right.
And you get Shedeur Sanders. That would be a pretty good win right there if you get Russ and Shedeur.
I got to tell you, Evan, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes into the show. We did 5 minutes on boobs and a couple seconds there on Russell Wilson, Shedeur Sanders. It's moved twice over here.
That excites you?
Very excited.
Now, in fairness, Conor Hughes was on in November, and it was right after the Jets had fired Robert Saleh. And we do this to ourselves. So I figured, Conor's part of the family. We have him on a lot. SNY, WFAN. We love Conor. Let's put him on the spot. So I want to take you back to mid-November when we said to Conor Hughes, there are no rumors at this point, in fairness. There's nothing. They had just fired Douglas. Saleh's been out. who will be their next GM and head coach. And here's what Conor Hughes said.
GM, I think you're going to see them pluck from somebody that's from an organization that you like. Like, I don't think it's going to be somebody who's necessarily done it before, but I also think they're going to go out there and they're going to hire a director of football operations, and he's going to pick the GM. And I think you'll see someone come over from Minnesota. I think you can see someone come over from not necessarily Green Bay, but a Kansas City, a Detroit, somewhere. It's going to be one of those things. The coach that I do believe is going to get a lot of consideration, and I could see him getting the job if he doesn't go to New Orleans, is Aaron Glenn. I think he hasn't done it before. He's not the offensive mind, but he's somebody who I think would take the job. I think he would excite the fan base. I think he would excite ownership. And a lot of people around the league really value him.
Very well.
How about that?
I mean, solid. And he kind of,
nailed it.
well, he kind of nailed the GM too, because nobody knew. I don't think anybody knew who these new GMs were going to be.
Yeah, the new ones we really didn't know. If they were going to hire Dimitrov, my apologies.
Right, but
then we would have known.
But all of these GMs that are new now, they're all assistant GMs or play personnel guys.
Right.
Like, nobody knew who Joe Shane was when he got hired by the New York Giants. I mean, if you're inside the game, you understand that he was the assistant GM up in Buffalo, but you didn't know who Joe Shane was. And so what you do is you pick the assistant GM from a successful organization.